Hey everybody, this here is going to be a video about the military, and I want to immediately start off by saying to anyone who serves, their intentions, I'm sure, are very well-meaning. Most everybody who joins the military has certainly the best intentions, and I don't want to take that away from anyone. So to preface, I do think maybe in the past, there might have been a time where the military was maybe needed, where countries or nations needed to have a defense to protect against other nations who maybe spoke another language. So it would have been harder to communicate. That's all the past, though. My claim is that right now, in this era, in this time that we live in a time where our words travel faster than weapons. Um, just to kind of start this off, and so theoretically, all of us are able to communicate. We could all say, "Hey, I won't hurt anybody." Go to the next person. "Hey, I'm not going to hurt anyone." "Hey, next person, I won't hurt anybody either." You go through everybody, and you're gonna people. Everybody will agree to not attack one another. And then those that are truly evil, or from a biblical perspective, I would say those who are demonic can't help themselves and say, they'll expose themselves through communication by saying, well, maybe these people we should hurt or do this to or that. And I'm, by the way, not advocating at all to ever hurt anybody ever. There's never a reason to, and we can use our words in this time that we live to be able to deal with situations like hurting somebody doesn't solve what it is that you're trying to accomplish. If there are resources that you want, you can barter for them or figure it out. That can get into the Fed, which gets into the Rothschilds, which I'll get into kind of towards the end of this video. Um, but we can talk to one another, and theoretically, if our government was made of people, made up of people who are like us, and we all want peace, they should be advocating for peace as well. But presidents always advocate for military foreign policy, no matter who is in office, left or right. Both are different, left and right wing of the fallen angel system. And so I wanted to start this off with our words traveling faster than weapons. Our ability to communicate can literally save lives. You can talk before there's ever a need for conflict. And this here on screen is actually a snippet of a. This is my what's called a calling card in the game Call of Duty, and I play that game. There's actually rotating lobbies, and so you're actually able to you can go on there and you can speak to people. Each game is about 10 minutes, and you can talk to people for 10 minutes, party up with them and talk longer, or just it'll put you into another lobby and you can talk to more people about this stuff. And so I go on there and I'll talk about some of these things, and now I want to make this video to kind of have the documentation for it. So it's kind of in one place. And this will be brief. Maybe I'll expand on some of these later, but I wanted to make this kind of a brief summary. So we're going to get into it here. We're going to start with Operation Northwoods. This is the Joint Chiefs of Staff who had proposed this. This was them wanting to create a false flag event that would allow us to get into Cuba with military intervention. And so these are people that are very high up in the government, in the military, that are willing to stage attacks on Miami, on DC, Washington D.C., civilian jetliners, and it even says like real or fake. They're willing to attack to start a war, and this is a proposal by the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Like this is very very high up military decision making, and this is kind of how they think, and this is just a proposal, and this is from the 60s, and military documents do take time to become declassified. So this was in the 60s.
And that if active duty military actually get deployed within the United States, that weapon is not just pointed at other people, other countries. It's pointed at you. If you do not get in your house when I tell you to, you become the enemy. Martial law. Understand that if active duty military actually get deployed within the United States, that weapon is not just pointed at other people, other countries. It's pointed at you. If you do not get in your house when I tell you to, you become the enemy. Martial law.
Here you get Operation Top Hat. This is another one for anyone who is in the military. By the way, if you want to get out of the military after any of this because you didn't know about this when you signed up, so you didn't have full consent or full context, so you can't actually consent if you don't know the full details of what you're getting into. So if any of this makes you want to get out of the military, you can ask for an other than honorable discharge. You're gonna lose all of your, benefits and everything, your health coverage and all that. But you get out of the military by asking for an other than honorable discharge. And this here is actually, this was in the 50s. The U.S. military had gone around in Alabama, and they started injecting soldiers with nerve agents against their consent. So this is our military deciding to, use our own military as experimental, projects. We are testable for their poisons and their nerve agents, and everything. And so this is Operation Top Hat, uh, and this was in the 50s. We get into, oops, didn't click on this link here. We'll go to yeah, I guess this one. And I mean, this is all, you can click on it. Here's the Smithsonian talking about it. So this is, in 1950, the U.S. released a bioweapon in San Francisco. This was one of hundreds of bioweapon simulations carried out in the 50s and 60s. This was a bacteria that they released in San Francisco because they thought that certain bays would be subject to a bioweapon attack, so they decided to attack this bay themselves, San Francisco, and somebody did die, and people were injured. And so this is the military attacking without consent, attacking their own people, attacking us. And when they say this is in San Francisco, this could be any city. This could be any city that they're willing to try a weapon out on, and this could be, where, I mean, who lives in San Francisco, who's been there, who's been to any city anywhere. Any city could be subject to attack. And then going forward here, this was from 53 to 73, supposedly halted in 73, but this is a very popular one. Oh, that last one is called Operation Sea Spray. Again, this is Operation Sea Spray. This here is called MK Ultra. This is one of the most unbelievable things. If you look into what they were doing to people, this was how they were trying to learn about, like, brainwashing and psychological torture, as it says here, and like programming, subliminal programming, and everything. And they were giving people LSD, which is a compound made by the government. And that counterculture thing with Timothy Leary and everything. Leary actually promoted like Aleister Crowley, who called himself the Baphomet 666 and wanted to be called like the Beast and everything. So that LSD and the counterculture, quote unquote, that's COINTELPRO, or they are not COINTELPRO. It's controlled opposition, where they lead the revolution, supposedly, so called, so that they are in control of both sides, their main narrative and their counter narrative.
I give the CIA a total credit for sponsoring and initiating the entire consciousness movement, counterculture events of the 1960s.
Battle lines being drawn. Nobody's right if everybody's wrong.
Well, I've been an admirer of Aleister Crowley. I think that I'm carrying on much of the work that he started over 100 years ago, and I think the 60s themselves. Crowley said, do what thou wilt.
And they did things like give people, different chemical shocks, hypnosis, sensory deprivation, and people are actually still, I mean, to this day, very traumatized from this type of stuff. And this is, again, without consent. This it's kind of a theme. And why these, like, they're willing to attack their own military, their own people. And then when you get into like the actual wars, this here is the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which got us into Vietnam. And this was you know, like fraudulent. This was an attack that didn't even happen, um, and this was a false pretense to actually get um, into war with the Vietnamese, and a lot of people were traumatized by that war, PTSD and everything, and the horrors of war that the public was able to realize and everything. And this was all under a false pretense, under a false flag, and that's how a lot of these things kind of kick off. Um, so this is the Gulf of Tonkin, which is literally started a war. And one of the things that people get into when they're in the military, like a lot of people are enlisted and they want to help take down evil threats of people that are truly evil. Not that those people aren't out there and we can, expose them and everything with our communications. But a lot of troops do not go into the military and expect to be patrolling poppy fields and helping cultivate. And this is the very profitable part of the military. And the reasoning people will say is, well, people are going to sell drugs anyway, and so if country A or B or C or the U.S. is going to cultivate and sell this poppy, it should be the U.S. to at least make the money off of it. um, so that's what they say, but this is part of what people can do when they're in the armed forces, and not a lot of people want to help promote. We're in an opioid crisis right now. So, and then with the military, there's actually, so a lot of our budget goes into the military, a lot of our budget. And like this plane here is called the SR-72 Son of Blackbird. This is something that um, they're saying could cost under $1 billion in a few years to make. So for one of these, and it can fly anywhere in the world, loaded with weapons in an hour. And this would be great if this was like a medical aircraft where it was loaded with supplies to help better a situation. Then that would be great. If you got stranded out in the middle of the ocean, this thing could try to get out there and help you really fast. So, but it's got weapons on it. But that's we're animals that want a war according to science, or fight, struggle, be the most fit. We could be peaceful human beings that care about one another. It's all in perspective of how you look at your worldview. But this is our military technology. We put a lot into it. The military costs a lot of money. NASA alone makes what, 50-60 million dollars a day. And what if you gave that 50-60 million dollars to, say, inner city Chicago? For one day you gave them $50 million, and then you the next day went to inner city Detroit, and then inner city Compton, and Oakland, and you went to all these places, and you went around and you started giving these places this money to fix up their finish those projects. We can either build and construct, or we can destruct. Like, imagine if you had the military, you give everybody a weapon and charge in there like the Normandy D-Day invasion, or you give all those guys hammers and tools, and you can go in and build, like after a natural disaster or something. We can prevent the stuff that we can prevent, because it's a choice to go to war. It's a choice to be peaceful. It takes a lot of, you have to choose, you have to agree, you have to put in the muscle to lift the weapon and have the skill to aim it, and you have to do a lot. A lot is involved to be violent towards one another, but we're inherently peaceful towards one another. If you leave someone alone, you're peaceful to them. And so this is part of where our military technology goes to. And this says here, it's gonna rain, and it starts pouring. Like the NASA can make it rain, and yet if we go to like, if you see the wildfires in the West, these we have a bunch of people whose livelihoods are burning down. Like, people are having to live through this, and NASA could be helping to put this out. They can make it rain without needing to seed. And yet, what do they want to do? Like, when does NASA, or when does the GOV decide to be able to use? When do they think it's good to use weather modification and geoengineering? Well, then you go to Operation Popeye, and this was the military flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail. So we're willing to use um, weather manipulation. We're willing to use this to in war to stop the enemy, but we're not going to put out our own country's fires with the creation. Such is the mindset of NASA, who can do something about it by, making it rain.
I told you.
Ooh, this is
I told
NASA.
you.
So they can make it rain. And what is an alternative to using this only for warfare? Well, I mean, look in Dubai and in these places, in these kind of more affluent, wealthy desert regions, they make it rain artificially. This one is done by a bit of a different method using electrical charges, but we can make it rain in these places and actually help to, you know, create more vegetation and everything, and have more livable regions with foliage rather than deserts. Now we get into kind of here. This is what it's all about, and this is this was to start World War One. This was the Balfour Declaration, and this was a promising of the land of Israel to the Rothschilds. These are the people who own the Federal Reserve, central banks around the world. These people kind of are very high up in the power structure of the beast system, and they were promised the land of Israel to, this war was essentially fought for, to give these, what the Bible says as false fews, I'll call them, because there's very few truly evil people. Very, 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 very few people are actually really like can hurt somebody. To be able to hurt somebody without remorse or guilt or anything like that is, there's very, 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 very few people that are able to actually do that, and then they have to actually try to desensitize people to some of these things to be okay with it. None of us should be okay with having to hurt somebody else or take the life of another man who is a father and a husband, and can contribute to his own community. We shouldn't have to take him out because we've never met him. He doesn't control his GOV policies, and neither does the person on the front lines in our military. So this stuff is all very dated for the era that we live in, the era of technology and communication, and we can speak to one another before anyone can. I could talk to you right now, and if you're hearing this, you can't hit me with a bullet right now, but I can talk. We can try to alleviate the situation. What can I do to help you with this or whatever? We can do these types of things and talk it out. There's a story of, it's kind of hard to verify, but like there's a story of the troops of World War One, the British and German soldiers. They stopped attacking each other on Christmas to play a game of soccer, and even then, true or not, look at how in the 80s, America and Russia were able to play hockey with one another. Today, in this current modern times, we still have like the World Cup and everything in the Olympics, and people are able to compete against one another in sport. Why can't we settle territorial disputes with if we can't use our words, which is what diplomats are supposed to do, is use their dictation, their ability to communicate. Why not settle it in a game or something, or play for it, or do something that doesn't involve taking a life, which is just beyond like nonsensical to think that you can that taking a life solves anything, especially for someone who's not truly evil. A lot of people can be talked to and reasoned with. If someone grows up in a certain region where they're told they have to go attack others who don't share their faith, those people, a lot of them can be reasoned with and can be talked to. And you should never promote violent philosophy. If you are truly philosophically like in the right and have good logical axioms and are able to be coherent and make sense and appeal to people, they're going to choose your philosophy over another philosophy. So you never have to be violent and rule out of fear, which is what these people do. And these entities at the top of this beast power structure, and are, no matter left or right, those people choose the um, they choose darkness, and the Bible says in Psalms 8:36, talks about those who hate God love death. There's a reason that it's like that. These people are they're related closely to one another. Are leaders of this country, and they are part of secret societies that go by the Brotherhood of Death, Skull and Bones, and they do some odd rituals and everything. But these people are very dark, and they do serve the the dark kingdom, so to speak, so called, that's trying to be established here on Earth. So, okay, I tried to keep this brief, and I hope I covered most of it. I might make another part to this, but I really think we have the ability to use our words. I don't want to take away from anyone who has served in the military or is serving. I think if you are serving, your life is very special. You can ask for an other than honorable discharge if you don't want to be an involuntary test subject or go cultivate a field or do something you don't want to do. And I really think, if you are in the military, talk to your commanding officer, your higher ups, superiors, and see. I think we're all equal, but um, talk to them and say, hey, why can't we use our words? And then tell them to tell their higher up and ask them, and then tell them to ask their higher up and work it up the line. We have to use our communication if we're going to try to get around this. So, okay, I'll cut this off here. Thank y'all very much for your time, and I hope y'all are doing wonderfully no matter where you are at. Thank you so much, and Jesus Christ be with you all.